drum, hit your whole body go crack. Let the baseline move, take it off of the mat. We rock crowds every time we play. Boom, boom, back, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. Let the baseline move, take it off of the mat.
Dr. Martin Luther King set the tone, not just for Black Americans, but for all Americans.
He was that spark, he was that inspiration, that motivation.
He used his voice to lead change in such a powerful way.
He was just so comfortable with being uncomfortable.
He risked his life for the greater good of everybody else.
He sacrificed for us. Now we gotta get back to sacrificing for each other.
He laid the foundation for what we're fighting for today.
A country where opportunities spread equally. We just continue to finish what he started.
Continue to speak up, continue to be heard.
Use our voice and our platform to speak for those that can't speak for themselves.
We have to continue to push the envelope, but that's what he would have wanted.
He'd be proud today to see everybody working together.
Keeping his message and hope alive.
His message is something that lives on forever.
Yeah, what a special night of action it was on Martin Luther King Day. And what a special tribute from TNT to the one and only Martin Luther King Jr. Look, that energy has set me up right for what is another episode of the Heatcheck. And of course, I'm your presenter, Jaydee Dyer, and to bring you all of the latest news here on Sky Sports that's around the NBA. But you know, I got to do it alongside my Heatcheck family. So joining me, as always, is the NBA 2K presenter and the man I'm telling you needs to coin that phrase already. You know the vibes. The genius, Mo Mooncey.
You know the vibes.
A professional basketball player who balances this perfect life of fame as well as being a perfect athlete as well off the court, consistently pushing for better in society. My guy, Ovie Soko. And also, look, a legend. Been involved in the NBA at all levels for 5 decades. 4 teams, 3 NBA championships, coming in at 6'2", but there's only one, BJ Armstrong. Look, shout out to you, my guys. Salute to you all.
Hey. What's going
Martin
on,
Luther King
people?
Week, guys. Love it. How you been, Kings?
It's good.
Blessed up, my brother.
A lot of
blessed up.
action.
All right, look, let's catch the people up with the latest news as well that's happening around the NBA. And look, we have to start with something that's creating a lot of, let's say, attention off of the court. The NBA has actually fined the Nets guard, Kyrie Irving, £50,000 for violating the league's health and safety protocols after a video emerged last week of Irving maskless at a family's birthday party. Look, at this stage, there's still conversations happening between Kyrie and the league as to sort of the protocols and when he can join his team back up in terms of action on the court. But what we do know is that Kyrie didn't play in the win against the Bucks, and that now marks 7 consecutive games they haven't had Mr. Irving. So BJ, it's a developing story all the time, but it's also a developing relationship between Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets right now. What is actually happening here?
Well, Kyrie has, taken an absence, and, we've yet to hear from Kyrie. There's been a lot of speculation here in the media and from all different sources of why he's not currently with the team. Nonetheless, we are all anticipating his return. And if there's any indication of what James Harden and Kevin Durant has been doing in the 2 games that they have played, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of anticipation, but more importantly, the expectations now has been heightened. We are all expecting this team to go deep into the playoffs. There are many people, myself included, saying this is probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. So, we're all anticipating Kevin Durant because the question begs now, is this team better than the Los Angeles Lakers? And I think now there's some real debate. There's a lot of people talking about it. And certainly when you look on paper with those 3, especially on the offensive end, you can make a case that this team is a team to be reckoned with if they can get it together, if they can start practicing and develop some type of chemistry. But certainly you cannot deny that this is a very talented team that they've put together on the fly. They haven't practiced. They haven't played together. They haven't done much together. But you got to say, those 3 players in a Brooklyn uniform, you got a problem now.
Irving has cited his reasons for being away and called it personal reasons, Mo. But I quote the Nets head coach at this moment in time, Steve Nash, and he said he didn't know why Irving wasn't playing. Mo also coupled that with some of the quotations we saw earlier in the year where he was talking about everybody being a head coach and everybody being leaders on this team. Are you concerned at all about Kyrie's sort of mentality at this moment in time?
You know, I couldn't be one to sit here and judge another man's mentality because I really don't know. I don't think anyone knows the true ins and outs of the situation. And that includes the Brooklyn Nets themselves. When Kyrie's ready to say why he's been away, I'm sure he'll come out and let everyone know. And so until that happens, I can't really judge him or speak on, you know, whatever he's going through and whatever he's dealing with, because, you know, sometimes everyone needs some time to themselves to go and, you know, make sure that they're ready 100% to come back and do what they're doing. Having said that, you guys know my rules for life, right? You know, secure the bag and all of this. I got another one. It's called don't ever play yourself. Now, Kyrie Irving, regardless of the personal issues that are going on, we're in a pandemic. You are a role model to millions of people worldwide. You simply can't be going to large gatherings and events without a mask if you're going to go. And then knowing that you're such a high-profile celebrity and everyone's always in your business, why have people got their phones inside the event? Those phones should be taken at the door, put in the Ziploc baggie and taken away. If you're going to do that, I'm not saying I condone going to parties and not wearing a mask in this pandemic. I'm just saying you played yourself with that one, because that, as a role model, as someone that a lot of people look up to and all the other fantastic things that you do, you simply just have to, you know, be better when it comes to that and take this seriously, because, you know, if you're out at a party getting lit, people are going to say, all right, cool, Kyrie's doing it. Why can't I do it? You know, that's my whole thing, is you just got to be, the whole thing is to be safe, to take care of each other. We all have a responsibility amongst each other as citizens of this earth, you know, to be responsible when it comes to this pandemic and this virus. And, you know, I just feel like he played himself with that one, with that video coming out. I don't know if he wanted someone to catch him on video and why people were allowed their phones inside the place at a private family event. But, you know, for me, he played himself with that one.
Ovie, I feel like we've seen the situation before, both in Cleveland and Boston. I don't want to call them direct comparisons. They are different situations, but we have seen Kyrie, let's say, go against the organization's instructions beforehand. This is different because Kyrie helped formulate this team. And at this stage, we don't know when he's going to be returning. But what are your takes sort of on the Nets developing situation with Kyrie and that relationship?
I think the Nets have done an absolutely wonderful job. You know, I think when you're dealing with a player that's as talented as Kyrie Irving, obviously he has to be given some leeway. You know, when you're dealing with a superstar, you kind of make things work around them. But if I'm being brutally honest, Kyrie is tripping. Kyrie's tripping. He's bugging. Kyrie is bugging. You know, at the end of the day, when you're trying to build, you brought these superstars all to Brooklyn. You said, yo, let's make this thing happen. Let's come here. We can win the championship. There's space for all of us. We can do this, this, and this. And now you're the only one that's missing. Well, my guy, at the end of the day, the Lakers and more specifically, LeBron James has been successful consistently because he's been able to stay out of nonsense. You know, he's been able to keep quiet. He gets his head down and he does work. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he lets his game do the talking more than anything else. And because he's able to consistently perform at an extremely high level, he's not taking half the seasons out. He's not always, you know, down with an injury. It's not always this, that, or the other with LeBron James. Now he's able to speak out on other social issues and stuff like that. You feel me? And people will hear him because, okay, at the end of the day, the reason why we all know you and we all, you've got everyone's ears and attention is because of this skill that you have, that you're able to produce and show to the world at a very high level. But once you stop doing that, now less people are listening to you, and maybe he has the best intentions out away from the court. But, you know, at the end of the day, yo, my bro, you Kyrie Irving, the hooper first and foremost, and then, you know, everything else can fall into place. But Kyrie's bugging. I'm sorry, he's tripping. He's tripping.
That's bad. Got in the NBA, Ovie.
Anyway.
Yeah, skill-wise, and he's tripping. And he is bugging out right now.
I definitely feel like there's a conversation that needs to be had about sort of the relationship between Kyrie and the Nets. And it's probably going to be an ongoing situation. But one thing I will say, credit to Kyrie where credit is due. You talked about sort of the efforts that he consistently makes off the field. The reports are confirming that he has actually bought a house for the family of George Floyd, according to both former NBA player Stephen Jackson and friend of the show as well, Mark Spears, who broke that exclusive story over in America. Look, once again, putting his money behind his actions. So credit to you, young man. But other reports that are coming out of the league is from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they are planning to trade or waive 2019 first-round pick Kevin Porter Jr. Now, this is what we do know, because I don't want to dive into it too much. I just want to get an immediate reaction from all of you. But Porter hasn't played this year. He's been largely away from the team because of personal reasons, and that has been compiled with sort of the reports that have come out this week about him getting to screaming matches with team officials after his locker was moved to accommodate the new teammate, Taurean Prince. Now, BJ, look, you've been in an NBA locker or four, so you know all about these sort of situations that happen all the time. But what direction do you expect both the player and the franchise to take from here?
You know, I've been in a few locker rooms over my lifetime, and things happen. But the difference is things are being reported so quickly and so fast that now there's an immediate reaction. And, you know, there have been a lot of reports written lately about this young man and what is going on down there in Cleveland. And, you know, there's a lot of things that's going on in the world, and you just never know how young people are going to react and deal with stress, deal with situations. But more importantly, you know, there's, you know, trying to figure out who they are, what they are in life. So, you know, I can never forget what it was like to be 20 years old. And I can't imagine playing in the NBA, you know, at that age, coming in with maybe 1 year, 2 years of experience. You know, I was fortunate enough to go to school for 4 years. So I had a different way of kind of internalizing the world that was around me. But on top of that, you put in the pandemic. On top of that, you put in, you know, all of the things that's going on, the social unrest and so forth and so on. And this is what you have. So, you know, hopefully for him, you know, Porter, who we're talking about here, that he can figure this out and he can get through it. And, you know, I've happened to had a client or two on that team, and they said, you know what, it was a very unfortunate situation. But in today's world, you know, I've seen my fair share of arguments over the years, but none of them get reported as quickly as they are now. So we'll see how Cleveland will handle the situation. But first and foremost, let's hope that this young man is okay. Whatever that outburst was, that it can be handled and whatever is needed, the help or whatever it is to move forward, because you know, he was drafted there, and clearly that organization felt that he had a very promising career, and let's hope that it continues, if not there, somewhere else in the NBA.
I just want everybody to remember that the team did pick up his option in terms of only last month. They had that 1 year left on his deal for $1.7 million. So they clearly do see some sort of talent on the court. It's just about, as BJ just alluded to there, just working with him personally to see the sort of battles that he's facing off of the court. So wish him all the best. And gents, I know you two wanted to jump in there, but we've got a hot or not discussion that really, really needs to get off my chest. And there's a few things we need to dive into because the East is looking real spicy at this moment in time. So let's jump straight into it. The Nets have started the season 9-6. Let's get that out of the way. We all knew about the headline talents of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant coming back this year, but now they've added none other than James Harden, if you haven't heard already. Now you have three elite ball-dominant playmakers. And it's just easy to say that James Harden's just a little bit ecstatic to be in Brooklyn.
You know, Houston is a beautiful place. You know, shout out to them. But it just feels great, man. It's a rejuvenation. This organization, Brooklyn Nets, has welcomed me with open arms. And obviously I'm playing with some of the best talent in the world, as you've seen it tonight. Me individually, I just got to get my point guard skills back in the sense of not turning the ball over so much. But, you know, that rhythm will come. Me knowing my teammates, the chemistry will come. That's a huge win for us. Not really having a chance to practice, just going on the fly. We beat a really good Bucks team. So watch some film and get ready for the next game.
You know, James,
pretty good for someone who hasn't practiced for a couple of days, yeah. But you have to be happy the way things have turned out.
Yeah, and still tonight, we gave up a couple offensive rebounds, a couple defensive errors. Like I said, first half, we turned the basketball over too much. When we get a shot at the rim, we're really, really good. So, good win for us. And like I said, get ready for our next opponent.
Oh, 7 days is a long time in basketball. It's gone from, I can't win with these guys. They're not elite in terms of the teammates that I have in the locker room to, I love this organization. I love where I'm sitting at right now. Ovie, I have never seen a man do a 360 so quickly in my life, but I have, because this is the NBA. So I need to get it from you. You have 3 Hall of Famers. It needs to now, the statement needs to be out there. It's championship or bust for this Nets team, surely.
I think so. I'm going to agree with that statement. And it's a tough statement to make for any first-year team, but when you look at the amount that the Nets have traded away to make this thing sort of work, I think there's really nothing else that you can say besides championship or bust. I think now with having James Harden and seeing how well that chemistry seems to be working between him and KD, and obviously everyone's anticipating Kyrie's return back. I personally believe that they're the best team in the East. It's very early to say that. We haven't seen them playing for very long, but just from a talent standpoint, one of these guys can have a horrible night or not even play, and they're still able to take on the defending Eastern Conference, the last season's best regular season record holders, if I can even speak right now. But I think that just shows how talented this team is. So yeah, man, I definitely think there's a lot to look out for with this squad.
BJ, Harden, Durant, and Irving isn't the first time we've seen sort of a starry trio in the NBA. Everyone remember Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Or some people remember Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce. But this pressure feels a little bit different because of the way that their usage rate has been high and the numbers these guys want to put up. Do you feel like we should apply that statement to them? It's championship or bust for this trio?
No, absolutely not. And I think in the modern era, we are infatuated now. We infatuated with stats. We're infatuated with usage rate. We're infatuated with all of these things. But here we have a different situation. Every year, every game is a different game. This is a very unique situation that these 3 men are in, talking about Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. And here's why I say that. This is because we understand individually what they have done and what they could do individually on the court. All 3 of them currently now are in a situation where they got to figure this out and figure it out on the fly. Okay, they won't practice. There's no time for them really to develop any chemistry. And the most important thing now in the NBA is depth. That's what I'm really concerned about this team, is because when you have players and you're just going to play them extended minutes, 35, 36, 37 minutes. Okay, you can do that in the playoffs. But if you're going to do that in the regular season, especially in this type of environment that we're currently in, and then we're going to have to say, well, let's go and play at the highest level and let's not practice. And we have another guy who hasn't even played or been with the team, and we don't even know why. We're still waiting to get an understanding of that. So I think fantasy-wise and fantasy basketball, that may work. But in the real game, they're going to have to figure this out. And the most important thing, guys, someone's going to have to defend. At some point here, the game is going to come down to a defensive stop. I'm not sure right now, as we speak, where that's going to come from, let alone if there's an injury, especially to their bigs. They only have really one big right now, DeAndre Jordan. So there's a lot of questions. Do I like the team? Do I like the potential? Absolutely. The thing about watching this team is there's one word that really comes to mind with this trade. They have hope now. They really do. I like what it could be, but is it there? No. Is it a finished product? No. We still have a first-year head coach. There are a lot of uncertainties here, but I do have hope of saying what it could be if everything comes together. And that's a big if at this moment.
Mo, you got the final say. This team has had no practice time. That is true. Yeah, you're talking about a man that's going back into a system with D'Antoni and James Harden that he has flourished in throughout his NBA career, but has also fitted in like a glove with those triple doubles as he's immediately just walked into this Nets system. They still have to add Kyrie back. Is it championship or bust for this Nets team?
From the outside looking in, it's not championship or bust. And the reason being, LeBron's big three in Miami, they lost in the first year. No one said that was championship or bust because they came back the next year and they won. And it was all forgotten about. So, from the outside looking in, it's not championship or bust in the slightest, especially for the reasons that BJ just gave in terms of the chemistry, in terms of the new head coach, etc. And, after they get this season under their belt, whatever happens, they'll be in a much better place for next year to go out and compete as well. Having said that, first of all, you guys saw the fun we had about the Clippers last year in the playoffs when they went crashing out. So Nets fans, you don't want to hear from me this summer. If you guys don't get to the finals, I'm telling you, you're going to have to unfollow me because it's going to be real fun for me. But seriously, in all seriousness now, when you put these guys on the same team, such elite players, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, I think all three of them in their own minds believe that they are the best player in the world. And when you think that you're the best player in the world, you don't really want to accept anything less than a championship. Kevin Durant, obviously being in Golden State, he got used to a certain level of dominance in those runs to the finals and winning those championships. James Harden, he felt like his teammates in Houston weren't ready to compete for a championship, so he forced his way over to the Brooklyn Nets in order to compete for a championship. That's the reason he's here. Kyrie Irving, Boston wanted to keep him long term. He decided to leave, pair up with Kevin Durant because they wanted to get a championship. So if they don't get the championship that all three of them so badly crave this year, because all three of them have something to prove. James Harden, first of all, needs to prove that he can win a championship. Kevin Durant needs to prove that he can do it without Stephen Curry alongside him. And Kyrie needs to prove to himself that he was right in his decision to leave LeBron James. So I feel like within themselves, if they don't win a championship, they will be very disappointed. But I wouldn't call the whole thing a bust. It would be different if they were all on expiring contracts this year and they were all going to dart off, in free agency. But, you've got James Harden who's been traded in. He still has some time left on his deal. You've got time to make this work. So as much as I'll let the jokes fly if they don't win, they're a scary looking team. And if they don't win this year, then next year, I expect them to 100% be in the finals.
I got to come back on that, fellas. I got to come back on that. I see where both of you guys are coming from, and I feel you. All of this from the outside looking in, it's not chip or bust. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. In that locker room, that's exactly what it is. Because you know what? The reality of it is, those three guys, I feel like I can comfortably say, and you guys can maybe agree with me or agree to disagree, but they're three of the top 10 players in the world.
Okay.
KD, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden are three of the top 10 players in the world. And if not top 10, then they're damn sure top 15. All three of them. And at the end of the day, when you have as much eyes on your team as these guys are going to have on them from now, they're going to have the circus. They're the new attraction now. LeBron's going to be able to work quietly. Him and AD are going to be able to do their thing out west quietly. The Clippers now, they had that whole circus around them last year. Everyone was like, okay, Clippers are the team this year in the playoffs. They're going to be the team to take out the Lakers. Now, they're going to be able to work quietly. It's all going to be about the Brooklyn Nets. Their losses are going to be magnified. Their W's are going to be, expected. They're expected to win. It's just what it is. It comes with the territory. You feel me? And as much as we can say, okay, LeBron James, they didn't win the first year. I get it. Cool. But I think as we saw it develop, Chris Bosh was a hell of a player, but I don't think Chris Bosh is the same. I wouldn't put him on the same level as Kyrie, KD, or James Harden. I just wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? That's not taking anything away from him. And that's with all due respect to my guy, because he's a hell of a player. But he's not Kyrie, KD, or James Harden. So now with that talent level on the team, I'm sorry, but it's like winning is now expected. You feel me? I feel like all of a sudden now when it comes to these other players, everyone can say, oh, it's not chip or bust. When LeBron James moves somewhere, they're expected to go to the NBA playoffs, and they're damn sure they're almost expected to win, regardless of where LeBron James is. He can go to the worst team in the NBA at 36, and people can say, LeBron, it's a bust. He didn't win. So now you're going to put three of the top 10 players on one team and tell me that they're not expected to win. Bro, like, come on, bro. I want everyone to keep the same energy that they keep for LeBron James for 3 of the top 10 players in the league. Keep that same energy, that same vim.
First of all, right? These guys may be top 10 or top 15 or whatever you want to class them as. LeBron James is top 2 to have ever walked this planet. First of all, he's on a different level to these guys. That's why he has a different area of expectation around him. Second of all, you mentioned the Clippers. The Clippers this year, quietly, as you said, are looking very nice. They're coming back with a vengeance. Paul George has heard all the jokes that we've been making. He's coming back. He's shooting amazingly. So what I mean to say is championship or bust means that they either win the championship or the team gets broken up or the team, is bust. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing is they can run it back next year. What do you think that they're going to split up this team if they don't win it this year?
I don't think they're going to split it up. No.
So then, by definition, even if they don't win, it's not a bust. I don't
think that they're going to split it up, but I do think that there could. I think it drastically decreases their chances of winning together, and especially with Kyrie's temperament, you never know which way he's going to go. You feel me? When things don't work out for Kyrie and he doesn't like how things go, all 3 of them have shown that trait. When things don't work out for them, they might dip out.
BJ, I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a quick question because I saw Kenny the Jet make an interesting point last night in terms of with the TNT coverage and all the rest of it, talking about the locker rooms. And he spoke about the fact that each one of those guys is used to being the star. That means when we, as a journalist, go into the locker rooms, they used to be in the first person or having the queue or accumulation of attention around them. Now there's 3 of them. How different in terms of a mentality does that make? And how does that make a certain person feel if they're not the first one asked for the questions or if they're in the locker room and necessarily all of the attention of the questions aren't directed towards you?
Well, I was listening to the arguments here and it's always interesting to me because we all have the ability here. And I think without question here, we're all being seduced by the talent, as we should. I mean, these are 3 very talented young men. Okay. They're incredible players. We're all talking about the offensive side of the ball. Okay. But now when you put this talent together, you're talking about a team. Okay. And when I look at this team, as we speak, I go, okay, if you're a team, there has to be the leader, there has to be the distributor, the rebounder, the passer, so forth and so on. Okay, in the last minute of this game, who's going to get this ball? Who's going to get this ball?
KD.
These are key questions to ask. These are key questions. We're talking about a team now. We're not talking about just 3 individuals. Okay, they're top 10, top 15. Now we're a team. We got to win. We got to lose. Because here's the thing that can mess up this team. If Coach Nash, I just love saying that. If Coach Nash has an opportunity to give the ball to one player, win, lose, or draw, all of us here are going to say, what did the other 2 think?
But they have, this is what I think is a strength that they have, because they don't have to go with one direction. It's a matchup. Whoever has the best matchup, I think they can all.
You ever have the best matchup. But you cannot in this league. There is an unwritten rule in this league. You better give that ball to your best player and live with the results. That's a fact. We can sit here and talk about who has the best matchup. Okay, I had the best matchup, but I was going to give that ball to Michael Jordan. That's a fact.
But this is
Here's the thing.
I'll tell you the best thing about it.
And I want to say this too. Ovie, here's another concern that I have with this. They're playing in a system that has never won before. They're playing in a system that has never won before. Now, we can all talk about every team, the difference between a LeBron James and all these other guys is the following. LeBron James has established leadership. I mean, he really puts his imprint on this team. And when they do win, they all defend. And they play in a system where there's no doubt that he's going to handle that ball, even with Kyrie on that team. And they're going to have a way that they're going to defend, the way they played, the way they manage, so forth and so on. All great teams do that. You talk about the Warriors. The Warriors got a lot of, as they should, they got a lot of positive press for shooting threes, but they were the best defensive team in the league during this entire time. They are playing in a system, guys, and we have to talk about this, which has never won before.
And the discussion.
We got a lot to prove here.
The thing is here, though.
I like this.
The Nets still need to make changes to their roster.
I like this because
I'll say this.
BJ's given me a perfect segue into the second hot take. And Mo, I'm going to come to you first, which is we're talking about the Warriors and we're talking about the respect that needs to be given to them boys from the Bay Area. I know that we watched the action this week, because we could be talking about the Nets for this whole episode, but I need to turn around and ask you about these Warriors, Mo, I text you when they came back down from the Clippers, down by 22. I also text you yesterday when we were talking about the Lakers and how huge that comeback win was, 19 down at one point. But this is a team that finished with the worst regular season record. And I'm looking at them right now, and Mo, listen to this hot take and take it in properly. This Warriors team are showing me they are no pushovers, and they need to be seriously taken as contenders for the playoffs.
Whoa. You had me until you said contenders. So
you don't think
this team isn't a pushover? This team's not a pushover team. Don't get me wrong, okay? This team is a very talented team. As I said a few weeks ago, Stephen Curry has been so great for so long that everyone started to disrespect him and think it's okay to forget him when they're talking about all these top talented players. Cool. I mean, let's remember, this Golden State Warriors team are missing Klay Thompson. Add Klay Thompson to this mix, then we can talk about contending for a championship. But right now, they're not on that top level of teams. Yes, they can make the playoffs. Yes, they can maybe cause a stir in the first round. But I don't see them contend. I don't see them going to the Western Conference Finals. I don't see them going to the NBA Finals. And I don't see them winning a championship. Having said that, they are missing Klay Thompson, who is arguably top 2 shooter in the NBA. But let's look at what they do have. They've got Stephen Curry. We're not going to get into the discussion about where he ranks amongst point guards, because I don't even need to get into that. They have Stephen Curry. That's all I need to say. They've also got Draymond Green, who may have lost a little step, but up here in terms of the IQ, in terms of reading the game of basketball, in terms of knowing every single play the opposition's going to run, in terms of knowing every tendency of the opposition players, in terms of mentoring the young guys. You heard it last night with that clip with James Wiseman. Draymond Green's a great asset to have. James Wiseman only played 3 games in college, didn't have a training camp, didn't have a summer league, didn't have a preseason. He's come straight into the NBA. He's going to be improving every game. Kelly Oubre started off the season horribly. He's starting to find his feet. His shots are starting to fall in this team, in this system. Andrew Wiggins, as much as we let the jokes fly about his offensive abilities, defensively, he's been a fantastic player throughout the season. If you don't believe me, go and watch how he defended LeBron James last night. He's growing into a great defender. And then Eric Pascal as well, coming off that bench. He's a very effective piece that can be used. So they are a solid team. I'm going to say they're not pushovers because they're not an easy opponent. They've shown that against 2 of the best teams in this league. However, when you get to the bit where you're talking about them being contenders to win the championship, I think that's a little too much dip on your chip.
Again, contenders for the playoffs.
Contenders for the playoffs.
I know you. I heard your point. I heard your point.
I heard contenders and my head just went back.
Yeah, I know. That's the Celtics in you. Immediately, it's championship or bust when you're a Celtics.
Because I ain't worried about contending for playoffs.
Look, the Warriors Ovie are sitting right now 7-6, and just to echo some of the things that Mo was just talking about, Draymond and Steph at this moment in time are showing glimpses of looking like an important dynamic duo. I'm just asking you, are you seeing them the same way that I'm seeing them? There are certainly no pushovers in this league right now.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as say dynamic duo. I mean, you got Batman, a clear Batman, and then I don't even know if you call Draymond Robin, but whatever. He does his job. He does his job for that team. You know what I'm saying? They don't need him to go out there and score points. He's supposed to be a veteran. He's supposed to, sort of help run the offense. And he's great at that. He does his job. No knocks to him. But, they're a solid team out West. And the West is very tough. Everyone knows it's a tough, the Western Conference isn't easy. Competition is there every single night. Wiggins has been solid this year. I think Mo alluded to the defensive side. But offensively this year, he's been solid. He's been solid and he's been reliable for them, which I think has been extremely important, especially with sort of Oubre starting, quite low and he started to pick things up. But, it would be nice to see a longer stretch of consistency from Oubre. But I think that was just him sort of getting comfortable. And I think, moving forward, they're going to expect more out of Wiseman. I think he has the talent, and I think under the tutelage of Draymond, that's definitely going to help him come along. So, yeah, no, they're not a pushover team by a long shot. And I think anytime you put Stephen Curry out there, I know me and Mo, we had our discussions about him and Kyrie, their individual talents. Cool, we all of us can agree they're both very talented players. But anytime you have a guy like that, it's going to help your team come along a lot offensively. So I think if those guys are able to sort of jump on his cape, I think they'll be in the playoffs or at least be in contention. They'll be there. They'll be there.
BJ, I look at Draymond's contributions that sometimes the box score doesn't sort of reflect. I see the breakout performance from Kelly Oubre Jr. against the Lakers. I see the adjustments that they've made since obviously their plans got derailed after Klay Thompson's injury. I'm just looking at all of the adaptations I'm seeing the Warriors make, and I've just come to the conclusion. You tell me whether or not you agree with this hot take. They are legit no pushovers in the Western Conference.
Well, the Western Conference is very tough. And I'm going to say they're no pushover, but there are a lot of teams, a lot of talented teams, in particular in the Western Conference. When you talk about Draymond Green, he knows how to win. When you talk about Steph Curry, he's achieved it all. Now, those other guys, we're saying, what are they going to do and what are going to be their contributions? Because they haven't achieved and had the same success that those two gentlemen had in particular. Now, there's one player that I think that can propel them to being a team that can battle, like you saw last night, and come out with a victory, into a team that we're saying, okay, this team could make some serious noise, and that's James Wiseman. James Wiseman has the ability to be what we consider in this league an advantage player. He's athletic, he can shoot, he can block shots, he can run the court, he has great hands, he has all of these things. If this young man can score anywhere between 15 and 20 points a game, I agree. This team will be in the playoffs. Why do I say that? Is because James Wiseman has the athletic capability to be a star. He has the capability to be a star in this league. Now, are they winning games right now? And that was a really nice win, and people want to say, yes, look at them. But let's not get this twisted up. The LA Lakers are now on cruise. They're just cruising. They're like, yeah, they play. They're up 15, 16. LeBron's passing the ball. They're like, okay, can we just get through the season without getting hurt so we can get to the playoffs? That's what this is all about right now for the Lakers. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock into this game, because if this was a series, they would get 4 and out. It's just what it is. LeBron and these guys are just they're playing the game now like, hey, we won a championship this year. Let's just be honest. Now, I'm going to say this. James Wiseman is the key. He's the key to all of this. That kid there, the better he is, the better that franchise is going to be. Because if James Wiseman can play the game at a level and provide, and just be an athlete, provide effort and energy every night, get alley-oops from Draymond. We know what Draymond can do. Draymond Green is a human organizer. He organizes the game. He may not have the greatest of stats, but the game is entirely organized. He knows where everyone's at on the offensive end. He knows where everyone's at on the defensive end. That's what he does. He plays winning basketball. But if they can get that man, I'll say his name one more time, Mr. Wiseman, out there playing, he gives them 15, 20 points. This is going to be an interesting team, because they will have a player that not many players can match up with. I mean, he's a very unique talent in what he's doing at 7 feet or 6'11", whatever it is.
Wild.
And I think he is. I think the kid is a star. I think he is a star of stars at some point. I think I really like what I see. And, last night he got in foul trouble. But again, if he can come out and be consistent, and he's a rookie, he's going to have his ups and downs. But when he plays well, they're a different ball club.
I like that. That's exactly why we all picked him as our Rookie of the Year. Look, talking to teams as well that are, let's say, having mixed fortunes, the Miami Heat has played with a varying degree of shorthandedness this week, and that probably has accumulated to their losses against both the 76ers and the Pistons. But it's led to this hot take, gentlemen, and shout out to the boy Will Hardwick down here. Love the fact that you're always tweeting in, guy. But I'm going to feed you to the wolves right now because I don't know how this one's going to go down. So I'm going to just shorten it for him just to break this down for you real quick. His hot take is, take a deep breath, Miami won't make it past the first round of the playoffs. BJ Armstrong, you haven't gone first yet. Talk to your boy
Will. Will, you know what? I want to choose my words carefully because, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm going to say this. I'm just going to say what I see. You got Bam, you got Jimmy Butler, you got, Duncan Robinson down there. You have, Tyler Hero. I can't. They got to get past the first round. I think this team will get past the first round. Now, will they get back to the NBA Finals? I can't say that. But what they were able to do last year and the consistency in which they were able to play with, it wasn't like they had a hot streak during the regular season. They did this consistently in the playoffs. And let's not forget, guys, in the finals, they were very competitive. So I'm going to say that this team has the mentality to get past the first round. But more importantly, I think they have the talent to do it. Do I think they have the talent to get past Milwaukee? Yeah, I can't say that. Do they have the talent to get past Brooklyn right now? I can't say that. But do I think this team will advance? And could they upset those teams? Philadelphia, so forth and so on. Mo's Boston Celtics. Yeah, I could see that. I can see that, Mo. I can see that. And Mo, I can see that. And I like that matchup. But in saying that, they're going to get past the first round. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Mo.
Will had a clover in his bio.
Yeah, can we get that tweet? Can we get that tweet come back up? Can we get that tweet back up on the screen, please? Can we get that back on the screen?
He's probably a Boston.
Can I get that? There we go. Now, I don't know if he's a. I know if he's a Boston Celtics fan because he's got a 4-leaf clover, not a 3-leaf. I don't know what it is, but if you are a Boston Celtics fan, my brother, you need to learn how to be gracious in defeat. There was no luck last year with the bubble, and it's basketball. It's basketball. We all said it at the start of the bubble: the best team's going to win out. And when your team loses, you have to hold your hand and say we got beat by the better team. You can't come out here and say it was all luck. They're not going to do it again. The Miami Heat are a very talented basketball club. Now, we're talking about the Lakers being on cruise control. There may be a little element of that with the Miami Heat as well, because you got to think about it. They had the shortest offseason. The Lakers and the Heat both played the same amount of games, in that final series. They've also had a really short offseason. And, with guys like Jimmy Butler's never been known for big regular season numbers, but he comes through and delivers when it's time. And then you got to add into the mix guys like Duncan Robinson, guys like Tyler Hero. They've now got another year of experience under their belt. They've obviously lost Crowder, which I think is a huge loss, but they've gained Avery Bradley, another great perimeter defender. And then for me, the biggest development for the Miami Heat is Bam Adebayo. If you watched him last night, he's got his mid-range game going. He's scoring off the dribble. He's added to his bag of tricks. So I think the Miami Heat have improved. Do I think they're going to get back to the finals? No, I don't. Do I think that they can beat the Celtics? Most definitely. Do I think that they can beat the Milwaukee Bucks? Somehow they always find a way to stump Giannis. I think they could beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Could they beat the Brooklyn Nets? That depends on the changes Brooklyn makes to their roster in terms of defensively. Do I think they could beat the Philadelphia 76ers? That one remains to be seen in terms of how those two teams matches up. But I don't think that they got there by luck last season. Let's not sit here and lie and say they were gifted their way to the finals and they were gifted all of these wins. Let's remember that Goran Dragic was out with an injury. Bam Adebayo was playing with pretty much one shoulder. There was no luck. This is a hard-working team. These guys were really grinding. They went and got it out of the mud last year. They weren't gifted anything. No one gifts you a spot in the NBA Finals. So to say that it was pure luck and they're not going to do it again, yeah, I get they're probably not going to get to the finals again. They might surprise us and do it. But I don't think they're a first-round team that you can just dismiss and say, all right, cool, you guys are out of here simply because they started the regular season badly and what's perhaps the most chaotic NBA season of all time. You know, you just sometimes have to look at this from a realistic standpoint and not let the biases of the team that you support take control of your view. You have to look at what they've got. And what they do have is Jimmy Butler, who is a winning basketball player. What have they got? Is Bam Adebayo one of the most versatile bigs? You know, I've got him just behind Anthony Davis in terms of what he can do on the court. And then they've got shooters. And this is the modern NBA right now. They've got guys on the wings that are snipers. They'll knock it down when it counts. So I feel like this is a pretty harsh take on the Miami Heat.
Ovie, Mo just alluded to it there, and so did BJ, the depth that's now in the Eastern Conference. So I have to ask, where do you sort of see Miami weighing up against those Bucks, those 76ers, those Nets, the Celtics, the Pacers, and even the Knicks? Shout out, I'm going to give you a shout out because I like Tom Thibodeau. So where do you see Miami?
Jaydee, we're talking about the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Look, right now, the Knicks are sitting in a playoff position, so I have to give the credit where the credit is due. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm just gonna throw that one out. Knicks. Cut that out. But Will, my answer ain't going through you, son. Let me tell you, the Heat, they have everything that BJ was just alluding to in the previous question. They have leadership in Jimmy Butler. They have a guy that's going to do all the dirty work, you know, can score in the mid-range. He's going to bang down there and Bam Adebayo. And they actually have versatility in him, which is sort of this hybrid, this next level of big that we have now in the NBA. They have shooting in two great shooters, Duncan and Hero. They have none to come off the bench. They got perimeter defending in Avery Bradley. And this team competes. You know, all of those things being said, these guys really compete. You know, they start off the season, they're not defending great at the moment, and they're not rebounding very well. But that doesn't scare me because I know when it's time, this team can definitely turn up the notch, and they turn up the heat. You know, they don't lose anything on the defensive end. I think when you're talking about those perimeter shooters, you know, I don't think they're necessarily liabilities. This is a squad who really embody what Miami Heat basketball is all about. They play extremely hard, and I think, to say that they're not going to make out of the first round is wild. It's a wild statement that you got.
And yo, the one fact that no one's mentioned.
Sorry, go Mo.
The one factor no one's mentioned that the Miami Heat also have on the side is they got Eric Spoelstra on the sidelines. He's up there with the best coaches in the league right now. You know, you can't tell me that Eric Spoelstra is going to allow someone to sweep him out the first round. He's a championship level coach.
Well,
sorry, Will.
These guys are bullies. Yeah.
We appreciate the tweet, though. We appreciate the tweet. Keep them coming in.
And you know what? I like the fact that you did it with your chest as well. You told me what round. I like that, Will. So shout out to you, brother.
Hey, he might be right. He might come back and tweet us in July.
Hey, yo,
Will?
This might not age very well.
That's what I'm going to say. At my age, like fine wine. I'm telling you, Will, make sure you start that tweet.
Well.
But look, talking to teams
Mo, much respect to you, Mo. I just want to give you much respect, Mo, when you talk about your Celtics. You know what? I give you much, Mo. That's love. You just kept it real on
Listen,
that.
I like making jokes. I like making jokes and having banter. But at the end of the day, when it comes to breaking down the game of the NBA, I do it openly and I do it without any bias.
Mo don't fool me. Mo don't fool me. You know what that is, DJ? That's that pre-game coach interview when they're like, yeah, the other team, they're talented. You know, he's playing it now.
I wouldn't get ahead of yourself. Let me tell you why we're not going to get ahead of yourself, because Mo was just giving a very honest reflection on his team. But since the way that your team's been performing in the beginning of this season, I think we should give a very honest reflection on how the Phoenix Suns have done so far in off the court. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I want to talk about something special brewing in the NBA right now. Look no further than the Phoenix Suns. They caught everybody's attention in the basketball world last year, showing that togetherness, that tenacity in the bubble, going undefeated. But they've carried that momentum this season. They've come in with a point to prove. Seeing the additions they've made, And shout out to Monty Williams each and every time, because the way that him and James Jones are moving at this moment in time. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to my statement. This is 2021, not 2010. And the Phoenix Suns seem like legit playoff contenders.
It's been a long road for the Phoenix Suns. We've not seen them in the postseason since 2010, when Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire took them as far as the Western Conference Finals. It's the second longest active playoff drought in the NBA, behind only the Kings. Prayers up for Sacktown. Of course, they came excruciatingly close to ending that drought in the Orlando bubble at the end of last season. With Devin Booker averaging over 30 a night after the restart, a resilient Phoenix won all of their 8 remaining regular season games, giving themselves the best possible chance of taking the 8th spot. Unfortunately for them, Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers hit up the bubble with the same attitude, and the Suns left Orlando with nothing but a pretty solid meme. What it proved to us is that the Suns had themselves a core and a star who could come up huge when it mattered most. All they needed to do was bring that same do-or-die attitude to the earlier regular season games. The 8-0 run in the bubble couldn't make up for the 0-8 run they had earlier that season, and to be fair to them, a 25-game suspension for number 1 overall pick in 2018 DeAndre Ayton did take its toll. Had he played even a quarter of those missed games, chances are Phoenix would have had that one extra win they needed to beat Portland out of the 8th seed. Which is why adding Chris Paul in the offseason is huge. No mark against former Suns point guard Ricky Rubio, who did a fine job facilitating the offense last season, but CP3 is certified different gravy. With a future Hall of Fame playmaker on the roster, Phoenix have the experienced leader they needed and should improve in a number of key ways over the course of the season. So let's take a look at the Western Conference after 10 games, just to get a feel for the early signs in Phoenix. The Suns matched the Lakers for the top record with 7 wins and 3 losses, and it's not like they've had an easy schedule either, so we're looking good. And the weird positive in it all is that Devin Booker was below his usual standard in that sample. 10 games in last season, he was shooting above 50% from the field and 3, and over 90% from the line, firing the Suns to a similarly hot start of 6 and 4. This season, his efficiency was way down on that, yet the Suns have come away with an even better record. To further push this point, in this year's 10-game sample, there were 6 occasions where Booker scored under 25 points, and 5 of them were wins. Over the entirety of last season, Phoenix won just 8 of 30 such games. Hopefully what we're seeing here is the over-reliance on Devin Booker fading into the past. Even with their man misfiring, they've still been a top 5 offense in the West. However, it's the defensive end that's been the most impressive thus far. After those 10 games, they were top 2 rated defense in the West, conceding under 105 points a game. It's been a team-wide effort to lock up, but special mentions to the continuing defensive improvements of DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges, and the contributions from new additions in Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. Now, the Suns stand at the dawn of a really good season, one that looks set to finally see them playing playoff basketball again, so long as they keep healthy. Once Devin Booker rediscovers his form, because he's too good not to, Phoenix could rise to much further than initially expected. They could be a team with a lot more in mind than simply ending a playoff drought.
I got a soft spot for Phoenix. I used to live in AZ. Like, you should shout out to the Flagstaff area. I've covered this team. I've watched this development. And when I was there, they weren't this good. So, Ovie, I want to come to you. Yeah, I'm looking at the development. I'm seeing the direction they're going in. Are they a legit threat in the West at this moment in time?
I think they are. You know, I speak a lot about, you know, culture, and I think what Monte's doing down there is he's building the right culture, and adding a piece like Chris Paul is absolutely huge for that. I think we saw what he was able to add to the OKC Thunder last season in bringing along, you know, the young talent that they had. So I think that move in the off-season was absolutely huge. Now, even without Chris Paul, I think this is a group of guys who they really love working with each other. They love playing with each other, and it's showing, you know, on the defensive end. After we saw Mikal have a breakout night for a career high in points, we saw how happy his teammates were for him. So I think these are all things that are now slowly starting to translate into wins. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's only 10 games in. The season's still very young. But I do definitely feel like if this team is able to continue to grow, Booker's able to, you know, up his production within, you know, sort of the team concept and what this team is trying to achieve. I think the future's bright for us down there in Phoenix. Well, shout out my Phoenix Suns, man. And I don't want to hear anyone's nonsense. I don't want to hear PJ don't give me no nonsense. Mo don't give me no nonsense. Just let me be happy right now, okay? Just let me be happy, okay?
With your 7-3 record, I'm going to make sure that you're happy because we're going to end this segment here. See, right there, we're going to just turn around and leave you right there. That's what we're going to do. I just want to hear from you, Ovie, to be honest. I just want to hear how you feel like the Suns are getting on. Yeah, but make sure you clip this up because you know this league can turn around very, very quickly. There's some important games happening this weekend, so let's jump into our primetime preview. The vibe for this weekend is set. Look, Saturday night, you know already where we need to turn our attention to, arguably with the greatest shooter of all time, and Steph Curry, who's putting up incredible individual numbers, and they have to fight again for a place in the Western Conference. But Quinn Snyder's Utah Jazz are going to be good competition. That will be 10 p.m. Sky Sports Arena. Before us, it's time for round 3. Are you ready? Sunday, I'll watch along, 8 p.m. Sky Sports YouTube channel. And we have the Raptors entertain us this week. Who haven't started the season well, but after expectations, look, can they turn things around? And of course, the Indiana Pacers are the epitome of consistency out in the East. 8:30, Sky Sports YouTube. And of course, it's also available on Sky Sports Arena. Guys, I just want to get a quick touch from each of you because we haven't got long left on the show. So, BJ, I want to come to you. Look, Utah versus the Warriors. I'm watching the Warriors, like I said to you earlier, down 22 at the Clippers, down 19 at the Lakers. No Klay Thompson, but they show real heart this year. But that Utah team has consistently shown depth, size, experience, and are getting better and better every year. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. I think Steph Curry, after the post game, after that win last night versus the Lakers, I think he said it best. He said, you know what? We seem to get down big early and then fight our way back, and those are always great when you come back and win, but that's a recipe for disaster, especially with this young team there in Golden State. So I know they have a lot of things. I'm sure Coach Kerr and staff want to clean that up. However, this Utah Jazz team, every year you look at this team and they always seem to be playing well, especially early in the season. Donovan Mitchell has elevated his game to an all-star. Rudy Gobert, now he's an all-star. And now they seem to have all of their players back, Bogdanovich, so forth and so on. They're all healthy and they're playing well. They have a great six-man in Jordan Clarkson. I like this team. I like what they're doing. But right now, I think we're looking for the Utah Jazz to get beyond the first round. I think that is the next step for them to say, if they're going to be serious out there in the Western Conference, they have a nice team. They can defend at the rim. They have rim protection. They have scoring. They have all of the things that's necessary. But now we're expecting them to get past the first round. And, these are games I'm sure that they feel in their locker room they can win, and they have to win if they're going to be taken seriously out there in the Western Conference, because it's packed, guys. As you know, we talk about it every week here about how good it is in the Western Conference, and Utah needs to make a statement. And I think this is a must game and a must win for them as they continue to try to build upon what they built on last season.
Ovie, our watch-along game this weekend is the Raptors versus the Pacers. The Raptors have been disappointing so far this season, still have a long way to go in terms of turning around their fortunes. But then the Pacers are underrated all the time. They made an important off-season sort of change in bringing in Nate Bjorkgren, especially replacing Nate McMillan. Shout out to both Nates. But where do you kind of see this game playing out? And also, where do you see the fortunes of both of these teams playing out as well this season?
I think Indiana have obviously had some recent changes made to their roster, which is obviously going to affect them. I think they're going to have to take some time to continue to adjust. But like we've been talking about, I definitely feel like Raptors are not the Raptors that we've seen the past couple of years. They are coming off a couple of wins, but I'm not sold. I still don't think that they quite have things figured out, or that team necessarily has an identity with the changes that they made in the offseason. So I think it's going to be a bumpy ride for them. I think we're going to see a lot of inconsistency from the Raptors throughout the course of the year. However, hopefully they're able to keep this hot streak going. And, the more you're able to win games when you're not necessarily playing your best basketball, I think that's a sign of a good organization and a solid team. So, I definitely got this one going, in my opinion, to Indiana. But, we'll see what the Raptors are able to pull out the bag.
Mo, I have a harder question for you. Looking at all four of those teams that are going to be in our primetime preview this week, in terms of the Jazz, the Warriors, the Pacers, and the Raptors, I need you to put a name on it. Who's going to be the standout individual performer?
Oh, man, when you said you had a hard question, I thought you were going to ask me how many times Siakam's going to spin around in the game. The standout performer from the the standout performer will probably be Siakam, because I make all these jokes. He's going to come and have a bad game. But I feel like the standout performer is going to be Sabonis for Indiana. He's been playing at an all-star level. He doesn't get the love he deserves from NBA fans. He's been a pillar of consistency, almost a double-double every night. He's putting up crazy numbers, and he's carrying that franchise. Well, he's not carrying it. They're playing great team basketball, but they're running everything on the offensive side through him, and he's doing a fantastic job with it. I expect him to have a big performance, especially because as much as I love Aaron Baines, the big men for the Toronto Raptors have really been struggling so far this season. And I think that's something that not only Sabonis, but Miles Turner as well is going to be looking forward to, because Miles Turner has been blocking shots at a historical rate. So I think that's definitely the front court to be watching this weekend.
Well, that's incredible.
I just want to shout out.
Of course,
Jaydee, sorry. Can we just make sure we give a shout out to Karis LeVert and his health
100%.
Down there in Indiana? And I just want to make sure that we shout out and send our prayers to him. And, he is a missing piece, a very important piece when they made that trade to get him. But he's had some health issues. And I just want to make sure here from the Heatcheck that we're thinking about him and his family. And hopefully things turn out well, that he can get back out there on the court doing what he does, because he's a great kid, a great player. And let's hope that everything is okay with his health.
Yeah, he is
100%, man.
Off the court as he is on the court as well, man. So shout out to Karis, man. You've been all of our prayers. Just quickly before we go this week, I just do want to give a quick shout out as well to those that's leading on the board in terms of the fantasy game. Somehow my score keeps getting depleted, but I am still leading for the Heatcheck family. I just want to make that very clear. Turn up the pressure. Do you know what I mean? Start making some adjustments. Some in-game adjustments would be nice, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like 71. And I'm the highest ranked on Heatcheck. That shout out to the producers as well. I see you guys. Everyone needs to pull their socks up. Yeah. But what I will say is, it's very interesting, the guy that's leading. No names, no scrutiny, no nothing else. Just interesting. Everyone go and do a little bit of research into Nick and see what his involvement is with the fantasy. See, this is what I'm a real journalist. You can't get any information away from me, bro. And I know that you're doing it. That's in your game. Yeah, that's in your game. Shout out to everybody that's still involved in the Heatcheck fantasy this week. And also shout out to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your energy. Thank you very much for your presence. I look forward to seeing you lot on Sunday night, and I look forward to seeing all of you guys as well at our watch along. 8:30 Sky Sports YouTube. You know what time it is. Pacers versus Raptors. We'll be here. And to quote my boy Mo, until he coins the vibes, yeah? You know what it is. You know the vibes. Yeah? Let's sign up. Hey, salute to all of you. We'll see you on Sunday.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.